Good morning, UBBOptionMillionaires.com. It's October 17th, 2014. It's a Friday. Thank goodness. What a week we've had. Stock futures here are up 1.3% to end what has been a tremendously volatile week. We hit session lows yesterday before the market opened on S&P 500 futures. We had a little bit of a spike and then a collapse. You see this heavy futures volume. That kind of marked the low for the day. Into the close, we pulled back a little bit. We had earnings after the bell. Google disappointed, but came back to even here this morning. It's about a half hour before the market's going to open here for trade. We had Capital One Financial and SanDisk both trading lower, but that didn't help pull the stocks down too much further. We had a bit of a pullback in stock futures before just melting higher, and then when the European markets opened for trade just a little while ago, we spiked up. We're up 1.3% here, consolidating. We'll see what happens. What I like to see is the continuation of the reversal that we had yesterday. And I like what I see in a lot of charts here. You know, let's not say the bottom is in for sure, but it's looking pretty good, at least for a short-term bottom. Let's look right now at XLE. I've been pointing this out all week. That $80 level is so key. We're up 1.4% this morning. It's about a half hour before the market's going to open. So the last trade's at 83.17, up 1.43%. Look at the battle that happened here at the $80 level. We fell through it and blasted above it. So we've got some volatility here. This could be marking a bottom. Look at the massive volume. I mean, look at that. That volume we haven't seen, gosh, at least in 2 years. I have to go back and see, possibly in 2009 maybe we saw, no, I mean, that's the most volume, let's see, 2009? No, that's the most volume ever for XLE. And look at that candle. If you look from a 5-year weekly, it's a beautiful hammer reversal candle. So we'll see if that's the case. You want to look at something else that's kind of got me a little excited is IWM. We're back in the channel. We're back in the channel again. It's like the old Aerosmith song. And look at this. We're back over the 107 level, which is the bottom of the channel that we were in for quite a long time, a couple years. It looks like there's more upside to come. We'll see. Again, look at the heavy volume here. We're reversing course. Terribly oversold here from the pullback from record levels. So that's something to keep an eye on. What isn't so bullish is the S&P 500. Well below the Abenomics trend line. We'll see if we can put in some sort of V bottom. Will that V bottom get us back up to 197 and then we fail? Will we get back up to this 192.50 level, which would have been the neckline if you brought a trend line across here? Was looking at that as the possible neckline. As talked about in my videos, that we'd see a right shoulder here and then we decline. It looks like a right shoulderless kind of decline, but we'll see if we get back up to that level. If we can get above that, then we look back getting to the Abenomics trend line. It's all these things to watch. In the midst of this nasty pullback, there's some call contracts I was in, XONE, which is continuing to move to the upside. If you look last Friday, some really unusual action. The stock was up like 6 or 7% in a matter of minutes. Yesterday, same thing, late day surge that just absolutely destroyed the shorts. This heavily shorted stock. And you can see this late day surge, massive volume, pulling back, but it's near $25 here this morning. I got the 1750s 2 weeks ago for $1.25, and those are working out pretty well. Also, DDD, another 3D printing stocks at 42, up 2.69%. So that's looking pretty good. What's not looking good is my Google calls. I bought some Google calls for earnings. Google, if you look, had been just consolidating here at the 530 to 540 level amidst the sell-off. But if you look from a longer-term trend line support, now it's officially broken here to the downside. I know there's people on CNBC. I see people on Twitter saying there's still bulls on the stock. They think it's going to head back over 600. But just from a chart perspective, if it can't rapidly ascend, and it's actually green to start, we're only a half hour before the market's going to open, but the last trade is in positive territory, which is a good sign. But if you can't get over this 550 level in short order, possibly as soon as today, I think the stock is set to fill this gap up from the earnings report back in November. But I'm not going to trade it either direction here. I think the money would have been made on a 15 to 20% move to the upside or downside. And I was saying all along that I thought it was going to break out to new highs by the end of the year, and that might be the wrong call. Speaking of breaking to new all-time highs, I said Apple at the lows in May of 2013 would break to new all-time highs. It has. And look at this candle from the last week of action. It's still, in the whole scheme of things, is consolidating here and looks poised to take out the 110 level, maybe more by the end of the year. Analysts came out, I believe, this morning and reiterated how bullish they are heading into the holiday season. It's the holiday. We're getting to that point, aren't we? And so let's look for Apple to get back over $100. I might trade for that move, but I'll let you know in the chat room or on the blog at Option Millionaires. We also have Let's go into Apple. Netflix was down, 25% yesterday. Look at that candle. But in the whole context of what we've seen over the last 5 years for Netflix, not particularly out of the ordinary, although it is the biggest candle that we've seen. The stock has been volatile in the past, and look, came right pretty much back to support here at about the 325 level. So we'll put in possibly a lower high, and maybe that'll be the top for Netflix, or if we can get above the 475 again. But right now, let's just watch to see how it settles. And finally, let's go to the VXX, because we've seen the pop here. Look at the massive volume here. It's a record volume for VXX candle. And just look at what's happened in the past when it spiked up. Now, this is the biggest spike that we've seen. It's actually back to down 6% today. It's crazy. That's what happens when you trade something long term that's in a complete downward flush the toilet type spiral. You can see each of the rips has been a great point to buy puts or go short. So I think the issue here was a lot of people in this marketplace were not anticipating this kind of pullback. When you get this monotonous marketplace, and even a month and a half ago, stock prices weren't moving anywhere. We'd have 60 million shares traded for the SPY. Prices were just slowly grinding higher. Volatility was dying. And I think a lot of people got short VXX and we'll go to the bond market, and you can see it as well, got caught with their pants down. And that was a lot of the volatility that we're seeing this week. And you can see that spike up on TLT. And I see some people actually talking about, hey, you know what, that might be the capitulation for the TLT continuing to the upside as far as interest rates piling into bonds. So we'll see if this is indeed the point. Maybe we'll get back to about 119, 120, and that'll be back here at this former resistance now support line. That's going to be an interesting juncture. All right, UPBOptionmillionaires.com. Yeah, and the one thing to watch for is oil, and I was bringing this up as well. Look at oil. Let's see, bringing this up in my long-term chart here. And there we go. We neared long-term support. We're bouncing. It's up 0.6% on the heels of a 2% move to the upside yesterday. But if you want to look, there was a great piece in the Wall Street Journal yesterday talking about, and to me, it told a lot about what the market is doing and why it's pulling back. Deflation. And the central banks are worried about deflation. They're obsessed with it. And that's why I think they're going to fire every last bullet out of their gun to try and stoke inflation, which is going to help equities, at least for the short to medium term. All right, UPB, I'll see you in the chat room. If I don't, have a great weekend. More earnings next week. We've got Apple and Caterpillar. It's going to be a great time. UPB, everyone, goodbye.